Are you mailing your customers anything like postcards, birthday cards, newsletters? Today, we're talking about the physical inbox. We talk so much about digital and social media, but what about mailing things to your customers and being in their homes or offices? Today, I am joined with David Foley, who is a direct mail expert and a longtime friend of mine. I've known David for a long time. And he has been so focused on direct mail and print and just standing on that mountaintop because it works. You'll hear about a case study in today's episode on how effective it can be. You're going to learn how to get started, easy ways to start, and a framework for testing. And then just really my goal for this episode is for you to feel really inspired to leverage direct mail and printing and getting in that physical inbox, because I think that there's so much opportunity and it is so measurable. Sometimes it's very challenging when it comes to social media for us to know if it worked or not. But with direct mail, they might be bringing it in, or there's a specific QR code that you have them scan that they order or register. And that's all very trackable. So I'm excited to have David on today. And I just want to share a quick little story about David before we dive in. Back in like 2012, 2013, around the time that I met David and his wife, Judy, who you'll hear about in today's episode, David reached out to my husband, Dustin, and asked him, what's Crystal's favorite wine locally? Because we were living in Temecula, California. And Dustin told him, and he's like, do you mind getting a gift card? I don't know exactly how this all happened. I don't know if David then went and got the gift card or he asked Dustin to go get it and he paid for it. But he got me a $50 gift card to my favorite winery in Temecula. And it was just like, I was so blown away by the gesture and that he contacted Dustin. It was so sweet, so memorable. Every time I went to that winery from there on out, I thought of David and his thoughtful gift. And so he is just such a pro at that sort of that hospitality, customer service. And when you pair it with something physical, like a gift card, it's just like, I can see it. I remember getting it in the mail. Like I remember receiving it and it was just incredibly sweet. So he is an amazing human being and has a lot of knowledge about direct mail. So I'm excited for you to listen to today's episode. Before we dive in, here's a little bit more about my guest. David has been in advertising and marketing his whole adult life, including account service positions at major international and Canadian-owned advertising agencies, publishing, teaching at York University in Toronto, and consulting. For years, his focus has been on database marketing and direct mail, which you'll see today he is very knowledgeable in. You can learn more about David at directmailinsiders.com. And he does have a really great offer for our listeners at the end where you can get a free month of his full membership by using the code Crystal. So that's a huge win for our listeners. Go check out the resources that David has. And real quick, before we dive into this episode, we are going to be doing some in-person meetups with our IndERA members, our Independent Retailers Association members. And so we're heading to some markets this summer. Be sure to check out membership at joinindera.com. That's join, INDERA.com to learn about all the resources and community available to help you become a resilient retailer. And I'd love to see you in person this summer at some of the shows that we'll be at: Atlanta, Vegas, New York City. Would love to see you. All right, let's dive into David's episode. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Crystal Vilkaitis, the Wolf of Main Street, and this is Rooted in Retail. David, welcome to Rooted in Retail. I am thrilled you're here.
Well, thank you. It's been a long time since we've had a conversation, and it's wonderful to do it even in this electronic form.
I know. I'm so excited for our conversation today because we are talking about something that I don't know if we've ever really talked about on the show. We're talking about direct mail and getting in people's inboxes, like not emails. So this will be really fun and insightful, I think. I feel like there's a lot of opportunities, and you've been in this industry for so long. But before we dive in, will you just share a little bit about you and your retail journey?
Well, 17 years, my wife owned a winemaking business, and I was the marketing guy. where I was mostly involved with retail and marketing. We closed that business in 2017 and are kind of retired now. But I still do some direct mail with one of my wife Judy's friends who also has a winemaking business.
And I met you and Judy, I think, at the Toronto gift show, I think.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And we took you on a tour of Toronto with no taillights.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about the taillight part. That's so funny. Yeah, you showed me the town and I got to see Judy's winemaking venue, the retail shop. Like, it was so fun to be there in person and hang out with you guys. And we've stayed in touch ever since. So this is so fun because that was like, I mean, goodness, that was probably about 13 years ago.
Yeah, but 2003, 2004, somewhere around there, maybe.
Oh my God. Wow.
Oh, yeah, maybe a little later. Maybe a little later.
Yeah, or maybe 2013, 2014.
Yeah, because we saw you in other cities before you came to Toronto.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, super fun. But you are the person to talk about. I know you're very rooted in marketing and especially from a physical marketing perspective. So let's dive in, David, because you believe that direct mail should still be a part of retail marketing plans today. So can you share why, especially when so much attention is on digital marketing?
Well, it's precisely because so much attention is paid to digital marketing. So they'll be able to supplement some of their online, digital, social media, whatever you want to call it, with some direct mail and test whether or not direct mail works better than digital media. In some cases it will, in some cases it won't. But unless you test, you'll never know.
Okay, so David, can you share a real world example of a retail store that ran a successful direct mail campaign? What they did, how they measured the success, what they learned?
Okay, as I mentioned earlier, my wife had a winemaking business for 17 years, and during that 17 years, we used mail virtually exclusively to promote our product to our customers. We closed that business in 2017, but to this day, one of Judy's friends, who also owns a winemaking business, still asks me to do a campaign for her once a year. So I don't have a physical campaign to show you, unfortunately. But imagine this. You have an 11 by 17 sheet of paper, and it folds in half to 8.5 by 11. So on the front cover, you have an article and you have a recipe, because the recipe consumes wine, and we're not in the wine making business. We're in the wine consumption business. But inside, on the 1117 center spread, we have descriptions of wines that are going to become available in future months. And the same on the back. So, front cover, nice stuff to read. Inside and on the back, future wine. Inside this envelope, there is an order form, because you always have to put a reply device in with direct mail. Whether that reply device is a physical order form with a reply envelope or a QR code or a phone number. In this case, her name is Heather Banks. In Heather's case, we do include the address and we do include the phone number and the email address of her business. Most of these orders arrive by phone. So last September, and it's mailed September of every year, and it is for wines that are coming out on a limited edition basis between usually December and April of the following year. So the average customer buys 3 or 4 of the wines. Each one of these wines costs $200 and some odd dollars to make. So the average sale over that time period is somewhere around $800. We have been working this promotion every year to Heather's list, and we have been trimming the list as we go on. We started the list at 100 and something, and today it's below 40. So this is not an inexpensive piece to mail.
Right.
$10 a piece Canadian.
Okay.
By the time we were finished, Heather had done $15,000 in sales from that promotion piece. Now, it's not fair to say 100% of those sales came from the mail, because Heather always does something I ask her not to do. But anyway, it is fair to say $12,000 worth, plus or minus, came from that promotion.
Wow.
So promotion costs less than $1,000 to create and mail, and produce $12,000 in future gross revenue at a 60% margin, more or less. So that's, I don't know, 7,200, somewhere around there, from an expense of $1,000. Now, here's the other secret thing that maybe your listeners can tap into. The company she buys the wine juice from has a co-op ad program. It doesn't promote it because it doesn't want to spend the money, but we know about it, and they pay 50% of the cost.
Oh,
so
nice.
What cost Heather somewhat under $1,000, in effect, cost her somewhat under $500. So that's even better.
Wow.
And
yeah.
of all the winemaking businesses that we know of, I think she's the only one who promotes this level of product by mail. And for the size of store she is, she does a huge job. Because the manufacturers, the suppliers, they tell all of their customers how to promote it using digital media.
Right.
But some things, like picking out the wines I might want to make in January so I can enjoy them in April or May or June, that's a more considered decision than trying to decide whether to buy Coke or Diet Coke.
Right.
Right? So there might be some discussion in the household about that. And the physical nature of the piece. You pick it up, you circle the ones of interest, and you shove it over to your partner and say, is that what you want? Then you finally fill out the order form, or you pick up the phone in most cases. That's the tactile, meaningful difference, physical mail versus email.
Yep.
Does that answer your question?
It totally does. And there's a few things that I want to unpack with that. So the first being, you mentioned that you send a recipe with this mailer. So there's this education aspect to it, a value add, where it's not just promo. There's something that, especially from like a recipe perspective, we may keep that forever, like we might put that in a recipe book, and now it's your brand that is in my recipe book for years to come. So I just feel like anybody that's listening, brainstorming what you could give from a physical mailer that does add some value. Yes, let's feature products. Let's shop ahead. Let's help them shop. We can have promotions, but how are we also adding something that isn't promotional that they may hang on to? Or like, I'll have a stack of things that I like to kind of build up, and then I'll sit down and either in the morning with coffee or at night with wine, I might go through those, and it's an experience, right? So if there's something from my local retailer that they sent me, it's an experience for me to go through. Love the value add of that. So smart. Then when it comes to having the vendor help with some of the costs, it is so worth it. Why not ask? This is something that I'm wanting to send to this group of people. It's going to be this amount. Do you want to split this with me, or can you contribute anything to it? I think we did our conference Evolve, and the big theme was why not and what if? So why not ask your vendor if they will split some of the costs? Like, that's such a brilliant idea for retailers nowadays.
Sorry, just to interrupt. If they won't come up with cash, maybe they'll come up with free goods.
Exactly. Give you some product.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then the results. Like, that was a really great campaign for her to run. And to your point of like circling, and if we have to make decisions and I could get my family involved, we're just not doing that with email. We might forward it. Or I might forward something to my husband, but then it's now like trapped in his email inbox, and he might have a lot going on, and it's hard for us to have that conversation. But, when we can just have it right there, I just see so many perks of physical. And I've been hearing too, like I went to the National Retail Federation conference at the beginning of the year, And American Girl was saying catalogs, print catalogs, because the kids like to circle, just like you were saying. We want to circle things. We want to shop. Our retailers, they love getting catalogs to shop from. So there's just so many opportunities when it comes to print.
Catalogs are a wonderful way to show the range of products you sell. And just a tangent.
Yeah.
On the mailing I did for Heather. 2 points. First point, I think the lowest sales we ever got was a little over 8,000, specifically attributed to the mail. So 8 to 12, average 10, because what happens is it's the appeal of the wines that fundamentally decides what the end sales are. Second point, 1117 sheet can also become a 4-page newsletter with exactly the kind of content you were talking about. Some articles, some value add in terms of recipes or whatever is related to the business, local news, featuring a great customer, a customer profiling experience, featuring a great employee, featuring, we used to do this at Bloor West Winery. We had a future calendar of local events.
Smart.
Because, there's this festival coming up on this weekend. And we knew automatically we should probably close because we do no business. But we didn't put that in the newsletter. But newsletters are a great way to build a relationship with those customers in a non-salesy or a less salesy way. And yes, you can distribute newsletters electronically or physically. So why not go ahead? Why not test having an email newsletter and then taking the exact same content and printing it on 1117 and mailing it to 100 customers and just see what happens?
Exactly. Yeah. Why not? There's no harm in that. Obviously, there's a little bit of expense, but man, it can really pay for itself time and time again. David, I want to ask, because you said that about 40 people get her newsletter, but you kind of scaled it back. And with those types of results, is there a specific reason why you have a smaller group? Is that sort of like a loyalty group or our focused effort versus sending it to more of her customer group since it's so successful?
The fundamental reason is you want to mail to the smallest group of people with the highest propensity to buy. Okay. So we have a formula for deciding who gets added to the list. For example, any new customer who buys at a certain quality level or higher gets added to the list. To be blunt about it, if they just buy the cheap crap, they're never going to buy this stuff. So why should we mail it?
Yep.
Second point, any customer who has bought last year's offering automatically gets on the list. Third point, some customers move, some customers die, some customers stop drinking. So in those circumstances, they're pulled off the list. And so we started out, as I said, with 100 and some odd names, and it's slowly but surely coming down, which is great because we're mailing less and at worst selling the same.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I'm really glad I asked that question because I want our listeners to really be considerate of who you're choosing to mail. It's not about just mailing everybody that's on the list. Segment the list. We talk about segmentation in email marketing, but we want to segment this too, especially from the cost perspective, so we can really optimize our budget.
Absolutely correct. Quickest way to go bankrupt using direct mail is to mail everything to everyone.
Yep.
So
don't do that.
Segment the list. If you're a camera store selling SLR digital cameras and you have a lens offer, you only send it to those people who have digital SLR cameras that fit that lens. I mean, if it's a Canon lens, you only send it to Canon camera owners. If it's a Nikon lens, a Nikkor lens, only to Nikon camera owners. But if it's a generic lens, which will fit either, you can send it to both. But you don't send it to anyone who has an iPhone because they'll never buy that lens. They don't have the ability to buy that lens.
Exactly.
So and a little bit of segmentation work up front will save you a pile of money later.
A lot of money and that frustration. The customers, this doesn't apply to me and is annoyed almost, writes it off, keeps scrolling, throws it in the trash. And so when we can send communications that really do apply, it's almost like the retailer's the hero. It's like, oh I need a new lens. Oh, this is so relevant, or I wish I could buy this, whatever that looks like. It's a way better experience when you segment. Now, David, for the retailer who's never done direct mail before, where's a really great place for them to start?
Well, they start by testing it. And let me give you a quick overview on how to do that.
Okay.
And I say quick overview because it is a very detailed process to do it correctly. So any of your listeners who want to get a document that lists how it is done can just get in touch after the show and I will email it to them. If they share their physical address, I'll mail it to them. Doesn't matter to me.
Okay.
So here's how you do it. Imagine you're a retail store with 400 customers. Well, that's not an unreasonable number for a retail store, I don't think. So you take those customers and either an Excel spreadsheet, Google spreadsheet, any spreadsheet, you list them based on their last 12-month sales, highest to lowest. Then you add a column in the spreadsheet and you mark that column A or B. So you alternate A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B. You end up with 200 A's and 200 B's. Then you take the A's, and I can tell this is already getting too complicated for some people.
No, I'm with you.
You take the A's and you mark every 10th name C. Then you do the same for spreadsheet B. You'll now have 180 A's, 180 B's, and 40 C's. So, to group A, you do an email promotion. All right, 50% off our whatchamacallits for the whole month of June. And for the B's, you do exactly the same promotion, largely using the same copy, maybe using a slightly different number of items in the envelope, because the envelope allows you to put more than a message. So you might slip in a lip note or two, a testimonial or two, or a brochure, something like that. And you mail that promotion, 50% off our whatchamacallits for the month of June. And you just sit back and measure the response to A and B. In most cases, you will receive a significantly higher response from B, from the mail campaign, because A, the opening rate will be much higher. B, the time spent with the offer will be longer. Average piece of direct mail is referred to 4 or 5 times. It sits around the home for, 14, 17 days, something like that. And it's read for 2 to 2.5 minutes over that duration. So any one of those measurements is longer than the amount of time someone will read an email. So now you're thinking, what about C? So the group C, we did nothing with. We didn't send them an email. We didn't send them a piece of direct mail. All we did was they were out in the ether. And we note if they, that group C, bought any of our half-price whatchamacallits during the month of June. So then at the end of the campaign, once it's all done, you know the response to your email campaign, you know the response to your direct mail campaign. In both cases, you subtract the sales from C. So if you sold 10 items by email and C bought 2, you now have 8. And if you sold 25 items by mail, you take 25 minus 2, you have 23. So what you have done is you have measured the incremental benefit of either email or mail. And so once you have done that, you will know, at least for half-price whatchamacallits, whether mail will work better than email or not. And if it works better by a significant enough margin, then you should consider testing it again. And by the way, you can also, in fairness, subtract from the revenue that the mail campaign achieved the cost of the mailer itself. And that's mostly postage and paper, right?
Right.
But if you want to make it a totally fair comparison, email doesn't cost very much, a penny a piece kind of thing. But direct mail does cost money.
Right.
So take that cost, net it out, and net out the fees, and then you'll have a reasonable comparison. And as I said, that's a very quick overview. And if the listeners want a document which outlines it, happy to send it.
Amazing. Yeah, we will, in the show notes, we will list, probably you tell me like your email address that they could email to get that document. So then they can, because if they're like me too, I'm very visual, so they can see that document. It sounds like there's even more to it just to get them started. So high level. And then David, I need help on the C group still. So we've got 400 people, 200A, 200B. The C group, are these people in the A and B group also, they have an A, some of them have A and C, or we've just taken a little bit away from A, a little bit away from B and put them into C?
In each case, we have taken 20 away from A and 20 away from C. And in my language, that's called the holdout group, or sometimes it's called the control group. But its entire purpose is to measure what would happen if you do nothing.
Exactly. Got it. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, because you're probably not going to see much, but here's the deal. You know, they might be still posting to social media, and that group C might still come in and buy something. That could be a social post or just they were walking by. So that's sort of our you do nothing. I love measuring doing nothing, direct mail, email. And if there's a retailer who has, you know, customers of 1,000 or bigger stores, 5,000 customers, start small. You could still start with the 400 list, right? Pull a random 400.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Love it.
If you're going to pull a random list, just sort it by sales or purchases, whatever you measure, so that you have highest to lowest. So you are taking a representative sample for A and B, and then ultimately for C.
Right. Yeah. We want those to be kind of similar groups so we can have a fair
measurement. Let's not take all the best customers and email them and all the worst customers and physically mail them, because that's not going to work very well. No. It may actually work, but it will not work like it should.
Exactly. Yeah, we want fairness. Okay, amazing. That's such a good exercise, just if they've never done this before. Awesome. Okay, David, if a retailer came to you with a $500 budget for a direct mail campaign and said, I want to do something unforgettable, how would you advise them to spend it?
They wouldn't even need $500.
Okay.
They'd start a birthday club if they don't have one already. I mean, and we're talking adults here. We're not talking marketing to kids. That's a whole different story. Simple birthday club. You put up a sign in the store, enroll in our birthday club. We'll send you a nice gift on your birthday. So you have a sign-up sheet, and each sheet is individual, and they put in a box so everything remains private. The customer gives the store owner a name, physical mailing address, their birthday. You don't have to ask for their birth date, because if you insisted on knowing the year they were born, that will cut down the response. Mm-hmm. And you can guess how old they are anyway.
Yeah.
In most cases. And you put that information onto a spreadsheet, a Google Sheet, whatever. And 2 weeks before their birthday, you mail them a nice birthday card, not one of these lovey-dovey Hallmark things, a nice, message about wishing you a happy birthday, hope you enjoy it. You get everyone in the store to sign the card. In fact, you can get everyone in the store except the main person to sign all the cards in advance. And then the main person who's running this program, let's say it's you, Crystal, you go, David, want to wish you a great birthday. Thanks for being with us for all these years, or whatever. Signed, Crystal. And inside the card, you stick a $25 gift certificate, or whatever is relevant to your business. I found $25 works really well.
Okay.
Because it's a significant amount of money to give away, yet it is not excessive. So you take that card, You stick the card in the envelope. I wish I had something here to show this, but you take the envelope, you put the card folded side down into the envelope so that when your customer pulls it out, the gift card or the gift certificate, doesn't matter whether it's printed or paper, comes with the card. Because if you do it like most people do and you put the folds at the top of the envelope, the gift card could stay behind, and you don't want that.
Right.
Anyway, you flip the card over, you handwrite the address, you slap a stamp on it, and you put it in the mail. And it's going to take, first class mail, maybe 2 or 3 days to get to that person. So and I'm assuming it takes a little while in the store to get all this done, because, you might not have time on the exact day, so you might have to do it the next day or even the following day. But the net effect is a week or so before that person's birthday, they get a physical card in the mail. Then they will take the gift card and put it in their wallet or their purse, or it will be burning a hole until they come into your store and spend it. So on the spreadsheet, you record the date you mail the birthday card, and you later record the date the birthday certificate was redeemed, and you record the amount of the sale. And all of that is a ton of work, especially if you have to do it manually. You may be able to do it through some CRM systems, I don't know.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you want to know how quickly those cards or those certificates, those gift certificates are redeemed, and you want to know how much your customers spent. I think in most cases, should one of your listeners' businesses start this in June, by September at the very latest, this will be a profitable product.
Amazing.
And
it's
it might have cost
started.
$100 to set it up.
Right. Exactly. And I think a lot of our retailers do have a CRM, and I think they could easily put this in there. But even if you don't have one, like a spreadsheet's a great option. And it's so easy to just start. And then people feel so special when they get things on their birthday. Like, I just think that's above and beyond. That's next level. It's so nice. It's a great way to get the information, the mailing address to send something on the birthday. Because I think sometimes people are leery of leaving their email or leaving their address. But if it's for our birthday club, then I feel like the conversion would be higher for people to join as well.
Let me share with you a quick story.
Okay.
Judy and I were driving back from Ottawa, where the Fermenters Guild, which is the Association of Winemaking Businesses, had just had its annual conference. And the drive from Ottawa was about 4.5, 5 hours. So we're talking about, what do we do, because prices are going up. And we decided, well, we wouldn't raise our price because we're already the most expensive. And we were the biggest volume store. Well, there's a lesson in that, right? We said, but in order to help, what we'll do is we'll just quietly cancel the birthday club. Big mistake.
No.
Customers come in, I didn't get my birthday card. Oh, I'm sorry. Something must have happened. So for a year, we gave away the birthday club gift certificate discount on future orders, even though we had canceled the club. We should have never canceled the club. We should have raised prices. It would have been a much better outcome. But, I never said I was right all the time.
Right. I'm glad you shared that story. That is such a great story, because it's a story about how we work so hard to train our customers to engage with us and to create that loyalty. And the consumer has so many choices now. So that's a big job. That's a hard job to do. And when you do get their information and you are allowed in their inbox, whether that's digital or physical, that's such a gift. And when you're showing up at the birthday and then you stop, like, people will totally notice that. Like, I am not surprised at all that you had people come in and notice that. But it's finding those other ways, to your point of raising prices instead of touching that loyalty, that surprise, that delight, that gift that you've trained your customers for, that they look forward to. A big part of hospitality is how you make people feel. And that's where we have such advantages as small businesses, I think. So the birthday card it makes people feel special. And so we don't want to take that away. So that was a tough lesson probably to learn, but thank you for sharing it.
Yeah. In some cases, if your customer set is older, that physical birthday card might be the only physical birthday card that person receives.
Right.
Grandkids may have sent an e-card or something like that.
Yep.
Or even short. And that makes a huge difference.
That makes a huge difference. It's a really good point. Yep. It makes me be like, I need to get cards. My grandma's birthday is in June. I need to get a card out to her. What if 3 days could change the way you lead your store forever? On October 6th, 7th, and 8th, we're gathering at Disney World. Yes, Disney World, for something rare, powerful, and intimate. And I hope you can join us. This is the Rooted in Retail 3-day Disney World experience, and it's going to be magical. This isn't just a business event. It's a masterclass in wonder-fueled leadership, a deep dive into the systems, stories, and service standards that makes Disney, Disney, and how you can take that same magic and infuse it into every corner of your store. Here's what makes this so special. You get to step behind the curtain of the most beloved brand in the world and learn how to lead, serve, and create moments that matter, not just transactions. You get to rediscover wonder as a strategy, because the best retailers don't just sell, they stir emotion, build belonging, and design unforgettable experiences. You get to leave with a spark, a new standard, a clearer vision, and a fire in your belly that says, let's build something legendary. This is about transformation, no tips, not more to-dos, but a return to what really matters in your store and letting that lead. Tickets are extremely limited. This is a high-touch, intimate event. If you feel pulled to join us, trust that pull. This is so special, and I cannot wait to do this with our group of retailers. The tickets include 3 nights hotel, park tickets to Magic Kingdom and Epcot, most of your food, special experiences, the education and frameworks, coaching calls after the experience, and more. So head to rootedinretail.com/Disney. That's rootedinretail.com/Disney to learn more and secure your ticket. Very limited seating on this one. And I hope to create some magic with you at Disney in October. All right, let's get back to this episode. All right, David, are you ready for the resilience round?
As ready as I'll ever be.
Okay. Best business book.
2,239 Tested Secrets for Direct Marketing Success by Denny Hatch and Don Johnson. No longer in print, but you can probably find a copy in a bookstore, or you can get used copies online.
Okay. Awesome.
It was published in 1999, and everything it says inside that book is still true today, because human behavior hasn't changed much in the last 25 or 30 years. The way we communicate may have changed with the internet and now mobile and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
But root behavioral issues hasn't really changed.
Yeah.
And of course, it does remind me that direct mail, direct marketing is the most tested advertising medium in the world. Nothing is done to chance. And I have behind me a whole bookcase of favorite books, and most of them, frankly, are out of print. But
well, and that says something. Yeah, that says something for a book to still be so relevant, published from 1999. So that's awesome. We definitely need to go search for that, and I hope we can get some copies. I can't wait to try to find it. That'll be a fun scavenger hunt. Best retail technology, like an app or software.
We talked briefly about producing newsletters. If you use a Mac, I use iStudio Publisher to produce all the newsletters that we publish. It's nowhere near as expensive as the big Adobe product.
Photoshop?
No.
Oh.
It'll come to me. Maybe we'll do this piece again. And it's a little more expensive. Well, Canva is free. I think it's $50 for a license forever.
Great.
And it does things that Canva can't do.
And that's awesome. So that just shows the retailer, like, you can just design this on your computer. There's so many great resources out there that can help you get this newsletter or print piece done. So that is awesome. How do you keep up with the ever-changing retail landscape?
I read a lot. I'm addicted to the news feed on my phone. So I learn about companies that are going bankrupt all the time. The other thing is we try to explore retail when we go to other cities. Judy and I were in Paris last year and Barcelona. And the shops along the street where our hotel was, Rue Claire, the shops did such a marvelous job of presenting their goods. You know, and when you bought some calorie-laden dessert from one of the shops, they put it in a little box and they tie it up with a bow, and all that takes time and costs money. But of course, it's all reflected in the price of that thing you just bought.
Right.
And same with Barcelona. It was an interesting city.
Yeah, I would love, I haven't been to either of those. I would love to go, but just getting that inspiration from different cultures, I feel like is such a great way to be inspired. If you were to start your business all over again, what's one thing you'd do differently?
Now, I presume you're talking about direct mail insiders as opposed to my consulting business, which is pretty much sunsetted these days. And the answer is going to absolutely floor you. I would have used social media. In fact, we are about, because when I say we, I mean myself and David Baer, who are partners in Direct Mail Insiders. We're about to start a Facebook campaign that links to a webinar, an educational webinar that links to an offer to join. So we should have probably done that a couple of years ago, but we didn't.
Yeah, well, you're probably pretty focused on the print piece.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, that's a good one. What do you think the future of independent retail looks like?
Oh, if it's truly independent retail, I think it looks great, provided those independent retailers can keep up the customer experience. I don't know about you, but private equity has come into retail in a big way, and it is not helpful to customer experience because the basic rule of private equity is cut, cut, cut.
Yep.
And then once we've cut as much as we can, we'll sell what we can for a profit. At least I hope that's fair. So if you're independent and you can deliver a great customer experience, you can take advantage of the fact that non-customers who are shopping elsewhere and not getting that experience will come to you potentially as their replacement supplier. And that's a great opportunity.
It is. I couldn't agree more. The experience aspect is the independent superpower. So they've got to really lean into that and leverage it. David, how can people learn more and connect with you?
Okay, well, first they can go to info@directmailinsiders.com, where they'll find some information on Direct Mail Insiders, and they'll learn that there are 3 levels of participation in Direct Mail Insiders. The first is a subscription to the monthly report. The second is the monthly report plus one of the 2 Zoom calls, the educational call. The top level, the full membership, is the newsletter plus the 2 Zoom calls, and it's $297 a month. And I mentioned the price because the offer I'm about to tell you only applies to that level. So if any of your listeners wants to try Direct Mail Insiders, they use the coupon code CRYSTAL, CRYSTAL, and they'll get a free month of full membership. So they'll have a month to decide whether or not we are helpful to their business and their direct mail objectives. Now, I will say they probably won't get all their questions answered in 1 month because there's a whole process of running a direct mail campaign. But they'll certainly get a good sense of whether or not we can be helpful to them, and they'll learn more about how we help others with their direct mail efforts. And I thank you for asking that question. Info@directmailinsiders.com.
directmailinsiders.com. Love it. And thank you so much for offering a free month to our listeners. That's so generous. So go check out what David has to offer. Also email in case you want to get the spreadsheet, the methodology that he uses for testing, because there's some gold in that as well. David, thank you so much for being on the show with me and sharing your insight to direct mail. I really appreciate it.
It was my pleasure. It's wonderful to see you again.
I know. Wonderful.
And say hi to Dustin.
Yes, I will. And you say hi to Judy. And everyone, remember that I am rooting for your success. Have a great week ahead. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Rooted in Retail podcast. It means the world to me to have you here. If you find value in this show and you listen on an iPhone, if you could leave a review on the Apple Podcast app, that would be amazing. And if you watch YouTube, if you're a YouTube subscriber, we film this. And so if you rather watch the show, you can also do that over on YouTube. Again, thank you for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode.